Hello and welcome to this short presentation. What I'm aiming to do in the next few minutes is to give you a brief overview of what's required for the presentation when it comes to the end of Module 2. Module 2 consists of implementing change, so the idea is that you should be explaining and illustrating how you've gone about introducing your Web 2 application in the classroom. And the focus of the presentation is not the application itself, because that will be explained in more detail through your lesson plans, but the process of implementing the application. So we're looking here really at issues around leadership, how you engage with other people, other professionals on the course, and how you overcame barriers which inevitably occur when any change initiative is introduced into a school. So what I'm going to do is to talk you through a presentation I've set up in Google Presenter. You might decide to use Google Presenter yourself, in which case you could use this as a template. And I'll show you as we go through the presentation what we would be expecting you to include on each slide. So let's get started, and I'm going to click to the first slide, and you can see that the first slide is all about the focus of the presentation. So in this case, because I'm giving the presentation, my focus will be to explain how you actually make a presentation. In your case, of course, you would be aiming here to give an overview of what it is you researched, what your Web 2 application was. For instance, it might be VoiceThread or Google Docs, and what it is you did with it. Moving on to the next slide, this is the first learning outcome that you need to demonstrate. Demonstrate initiative and personal responsibility in leading a complex and unpredictable change. So what we want you to include here, and if I was actually in the editing version of this program, I'd be able to click here and write, but of course I'm not. So what we want you to do here is to edit this page and to include some evidence that would demonstrate that particular learning outcome. The evidence can take any form you wish. It could be text, but I'd encourage you to think about things like images that you might have collected, screenshots perhaps, examples of the actual application itself, perhaps links to the application, or even some evidence that you might have collected in the form of video or perhaps audio. The next learning outcome is to demonstrate your ability to support colleagues, because one of the ideas of this module was to encourage you to share your findings with other staff in and across the school. So what evidence might you have here? And you need to think carefully about the kind of evidence you might have collected that you could show here to demonstrate that you've at least attempted to support one other colleague in their particular project. This one should be very straightforward. This is about monitoring and analysing progress. So we're asking you here to think about how well your initiative was implemented and how you can demonstrate that you know it made a difference. What kind of data are you collecting? This could be ongoing, of course. What are you doing to find out whether or not the initiative that you've taken is actually leading to any meaningful change, particularly for pupils? C3, this next one, very important. How have you overcome barriers which typically arise when any change initiative or activity is introduced? So what have you done, particularly as part of a team, to try to overcome barriers? You need to think about a barrier, perhaps that an obstacle that arose during the process of implementing your change, and what you did to overcome that, and particularly what evidence have you got that you can demonstrate in this presentation. D1, demonstrate the ability to communicate effectively and appropriately. Now this really is going to be partly demonstrated, of course, by the presentation itself. So how effective are you? But what we're really looking for here is, have you got evidence that you worked with other colleagues to encourage them and to communicate with them? It could be notes from staff meetings. It could be meetings perhaps you had with other colleagues. It could be evidenced from some of your documents, your Web 2, for instance, documents. Google Docs might be an example, and so on. And the final learning outcome, demonstrate that you can use ICT to plan, organise and disseminate the findings of a change activity. So what have you done to try and make other people aware of your project? In particular, how have you used ICT to achieve that? For instance, have you put anything on the internet? Have you put anything on a blog? Have you used anything within the school, perhaps within the VLE, to circulate that and to make people aware of what you're doing? So this is all starting to move towards the final module when we start to think about the impact that your particular initiative has had. And you should be thinking about that now, even though we won't be starting Module 3 until after we complete this one. Now, just to finish here, I've been using Google Docs. You may notice that we have the ability here, View Together. One of the nice things here is you could do this as an online demonstration. So it may be that some of you decide to do your presentation using this tool, and whilst you might not be present, we might actually be able to organise it in such a way that you present using the tool in a virtual fashion. So you need to explore some of these facilities, and also the fact that you can put the speaker's notes online. You see I haven't got any for slide 8, but my speaker's notes could actually be coming up at the same time. And then finally, just before I finish, if I go back to my original document, I'll just close this one down. This is the presenter, and you can see that laying behind that, I've got the actual slides, which I can annotate and add details to. So for instance, if I click in here, I can start to make changes. I can do all the usual kind of things I would do with PowerPoint or Keynote. I can insert an image or a video, and I'd encourage you to do that if you decide to use this particular tool for your presentation. It is a Web 2 tool, therefore it's entirely appropriate, I think, given the nature of the activity we've been investigating, and I'd encourage you to use this or something similar so that we can share the outcomes amongst the rest of the staff, including those staff who can't be physically present to see your presentation. Thank you for listening.